They stood in formation rows of uniforms, boots polished, backs straight, eyes forward. It was her first day at the military academy. The flag flew high above them, the sun sharp against the cold morning air. Orders were being shouted. Names were being called, but all she could hear was the thump of her own heart. She wasn't like the others. She didn't want to be here. She had chosen to be here. There's a difference. Her name was Mira. She was 19, quiet, watchful, not the kind of girl people noticed at first. But today everyone did, not because of how she looked, but because of her name. When the sergeant called it out, a silence followed. Mira Saeed, the name echoed across the ground like a dropped weapon. Eyes turned. A few whispered. One cadet, a tall boy with a loud mouth, snorted and muttered. Great. They let her in. Mira heard it, but she didn't react. She simply stepped forward, exactly as instructed. Chin up, shoulders back, hands behind her. Her salute, however, was slightly delayed. Not wrong, just not sharp enough. The same cadet barked a laugh. No respect. Not surprised. The sergeant's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. Instead, he moved on, calling out the next name. Mira went back in line, but the moment had already branded her later. During lunch, Mira sat alone. The other cadets whispered, pointed. One girl slid her tray away when Mira sat near. Sorry taken, she said with a fake smile. Mira didn't argue. She simply moved, found a bench outside. Cold wind in her face, silence in her ears. She didn't cry. She never cried in front of people. Inside the main office, however, the sergeant wasn't ignoring the moment. He had gone back to his desk, opened Mira's file. The digital screen flickered slightly as he scrolled. Everything looked fine at first. Academic excellence, physical strength above average, background check clean. But then he saw it. A section at the bottom, locked. Red stamped classified. He tapped his code. Access denied. Frowning, he typed a higher-level access key. The file opened. Only a few lines. Blacked-out paragraphs. One name repeated over and over. Colonel Zion Saeed. His face changed. He leaned back slowly, eyes not leaving the screen. Zion Saeed. That name hadn't been spoken here in almost 12 years. He stood up, walked over to the communication terminal, pressed a button. This is Sergeant Rahim. I need to speak with command now. Meanwhile, Mira was in the locker room, folding her uniform. She moved slowly, like her mind was elsewhere. In the mirror, she looked at herself, not at the uniform, not at the badges. At her eyes. They were her father's eyes. The same dark, unreadable eyes that people either feared or misunderstood. She still remembered the last time she saw him. That morning, the goodbye, the words, don't trust the silence. Sometimes the quiet ones hold the loudest secrets. She hadn't known what he meant back then. She did now. The following day, training began. Obstacle course. Target drills. Team coordination. Myra didn't struggle. In fact, she was better than most. She kept up with the boys, held her ground during pushies, moved swiftly in the mud. She didn't show off, but she never failed. The problem wasn't her skills. It was the whispers. Bess, the trader's daughter. You know what he did, right? Sold secrets. Shamed the badge. Her whole family should have disappeared. She heard it all, but said nothing. That made them hate her more. One afternoon, during the crawl drill, the loudmouthed cadet Rayon tripped in the wires and twisted his leg. He cried out. Others kept going. The whistle hadn't blown, but Mira stopped, went back, pulled his arm over her shoulder, helped him crawl out of the field. The instructor yelled. Why'd you break position? She was helping me admitted. The instructor blinked, nodded slightly, said nothing more. Still, that night, Rayon didn't thank her. He didn't even look at her. And the others. They just avoided her more. In the dark of the sleeping quarters, Myra sat on her bed, pulled out a tiny piece of folded paper from her boot. The handwriting was old, shaky. Her father's truth is dangerous when lies wear medals. She closed it, understood it. In the early morning hours, as most cadets slept, Sergeant Rahim walked through the hallways, past the watchman, into the restricted office of the base. Commander, she's here, he said. The commander, an older man with tired eyes, sighed deeply. I was afraid of this. What do we do? He looked out the window, saw the flag moving in the wind. Nothing. We watch, sir. She's his daughter. And what if she knows something? The commander looked at him sharply. Then let's hope she keeps it buried like he did. Until he didn't. Outside, Mira sat alone again during breakfast. But this time, someone slipped a note under her tray. She unfolded it. Read one line. Don't speak. They'll destroy. You too. No name. No handwriting. Her eyes scanned the room. No one looked at her, but someone knew. Later that day, Mira visited the academy library. While others used it to study maps or history, she looked for something else. Deep in the archives, she found an old cabinet labeled, Disciplinary Records Cases. Most folders were digital now, but these, were paper. Forgotten. Dusty. She searched through them one by one, until she found it. Saeed, Zayan. Her hands trembled slightly. She opened it. Most pages were missing, removed, some cut, but one thing remained. A newspaper clipping, yellowed, folded. Colonel Zion Saeed removed from duty pending investigation. The headline screamed scandal. But the photo, It wasn't a criminal, it wasn't a traitor, it was her father, standing tall, eyes burning but silent. She read every line. Then again, the article didn't say much. Words like conflict, internal security breach, refusal to follow orders, but nothing about betrayal. Nothing proven. Why had no one ever told her this? Why had they erased the truth? The next day, a retired soldier arrived at the academy gate. He was old, bent slightly, eyes cloudy with age. But when he gave the guard her name, the guard paused. He gave the man a visitor badge. He waited under the large oak tree near the grounds. When Myra was called from training, she was confused. But when she saw the man, something in her chest shifted. "You don't know me," the man said quietly. "But I served with your father." She looked at him. "Why are you here?" He handed her a small wooden box. "He told me, if anything happened, I should give this to you. When you're ready." "I'm not ready." "You are," he said. "You came here, didn't you?" Before she could ask more, he turned and walked away. Inside the box were a few things. A black and white photo, 2 men in uniform. One was her father, the other, unknown. A folded cloth part of a uniform patch, burned at the edges, and a sealed envelope. Mira opened it. Inside was a letter, faded, handwritten. She read slowly, "My Mira, ... If you're reading this, they know I've failed. I tried to stop them, tried to expose what I could. But truth is not always welcome where loyalty is blind. They will not come for you unless you speak. So don't speak. Not yet. Learn, watch, then choose. If the silence is too heavy, let your voice break it." She folded the letter. Her hands shook. She didn't know what to feel. Anger, confusion, pain. But one thing was clear. They had lied. All of them. And someone here still knew more. That night, as the lights went out in the barracks, Mira didn't sleep. She lay awake, eyes on the ceiling, her father's words playing over and over. Don't trust the silence. Outside, the wind howled inside her heart. Something else moved. Something stronger than fear. The truth. But the world around her wasn't ready for it. Not yet. And neither was she. But the time would come. Soon, and when it did, ... They single quotes wish she had just saluted. The next morning came with thunder in the sky, and silence on the ground. Clouds moved heavy above the academy, as if they too carried weight they couldn't explain. Myra stood in line again. Same place, same uniform, but something inside her had changed. She had spent the night staring at her father's letter, reading it again and again, memorizing every curve of his handwriting. Every word was a clue, a warning, and maybe a map. The instructors barked commands. Cadets moved fast. Except Mira. Her mind wasn't on the drills anymore. It was on that letter, that box, that old man. Why now? Why here? Why her? Someone shoved past her. Rayhan, same cadet with the sharp tongue. He gave her a quick glance but didn't say anything this time. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was fear. Maybe he'd heard something. She didn't care. She just wanted the day to end. But it didn't. Single quotes t. After lunch, Myra was pulled from her squad. Report to the command office, the instructor said. She followed orders, walked across the base, entered the tall building with the iron doors. Inside, cold walls. No warmth, no smiles. Just silence and waiting. The clerk behind the desk checked her name, gave a nod, and buzzed her in. The room she entered was plain. A desk, 2 chairs, a shelf with medals and books. The man sitting behind the desk had a face that had seen war. Deep lines, tired eyes. Commander Haroun. He didn't smile, didn't offer a seat, just looked at her. "So, Mira Saeed." She didn't answer. He tapped a pen on the desk. "You've been performing well, physically strong, mentally sharp, quiet, very quiet." She still said nothing. He stood slowly and walked toward the shelf behind him, picked up a photo frame, turned it toward her. "You recognize him?" he asked. It was a group photo. Soldiers standing together. In the middle was her father, younger, smiling. Next to him, younger Haroun. "Yes," Myra said quietly. "He was a good man," the commander said. Myra's eyes didn't move. A brave soldier, a strong leader. Then one day, he stopped following orders. She clenched her jaw. "He didn't betray anyone." Commander Haroun raised an eyebrow. "Did I say he did?" She didn't reply. He walked back to his chair, sat down. "We don't talk about him here. Not officially. Not publicly." That was the agreement. "What agreement?" she asked. He gave a cold smile. "The kind that keeps peace." Silence. He looked at her hard. "Are you here to train, ... or to dig?" Mira's voice was low but firm. "I'm here to finish what he couldn't." The room froze. Commander Haroun didn't move for a long moment. Then, very slowly, he leaned back in his chair. "That," he said softly, "is exactly what I was afraid of." He opened a drawer, pulled out a small locked folder, slid it across the table. "Go back to training. Forget the past." "That's my advice?" "What's in the folder?" she asked. "Something that almost ended your father's life, and could still end yours." She didn't touch it. He stood. The meeting was over. She walked out, head spinning, heart racing. Why show her? Why warn her? Why now? Outside, a cold wind hit her face. But something else stung deeper. She wasn't just being watched. She was being tested that evening. She waited until lights out, then quietly left her room, made her way to the library again. This time, she didn't look through files. She looked for people. She found someone. A janitor. Old, slow, with a limp. He looked at her with tired eyes. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "I'm looking for records. Everything's gone." She paused. "What do you mean? They cleaned it all years ago. After him you knew my father." The man looked around, then nodded. "We all did." He was loud. Not with words, with actions. Didn't like secrets? That's why they erased him. Why didn't anyone speak up? The janitor laughed without humor. Because silence is easier than shame. She wanted to ask more, but he moved away. Mira walked to the back of the library, sat down at an old wooden table, closed her eyes. Truth isn't hidden, it's buried. She needed to find the ones who helped bury it. The next day during drills, she kept her eyes open, watched who avoided her, who stared too long, who whispered when she passed. One name kept coming up, Major Idris. He had been her father's junior once. Now he worked as a trainer here, quiet, always observing. She approached him after the session. "Sir, can I ask a question?" He nodded. "Did you serve with Colonel Saeed?" He didn't blink. "Yes." "What happened to him?" Major Ed stared at her, then looked away. "He believed he could fight a system with honor alone. Was he wrong?" "No, just too early." She didn't understand what that meant, but she knew it mattered. That night, she opened the box again, looked at the photo, the uniform patch, the letter. Then she noticed something else. Taped under the box lied a small key. Tiny brass, hidden dot. She hadn't seen it before. What did it open? The next day she searched, not in buildings, but near the old storage units behind the base. Most were locked and unused. One had a rusted panel and a lock that matched the key. Heart pounding, she opened it. Inside dust, broken furniture, old boxers, forgotten things. She searched every inch in the corner. A wooden crate, marked, Training Materials 13B. She opened it. Files, faded, unlabeled. She pulled one out. Inside, photos, soldiers, meetings, maps, and a familiar face. Her father standing in front of a projector screen. A report was clipped to the photo operation. Hollow ground internal objection report by Colonel Saeed. She read it. It detailed a secret plan involving unauthorized arms movement. A fake mission used as a cover to deliver weapons to a private entity. Her father had written objections, refused to sign the approval. He warned of consequences. Betrayal, loss of national trust. The last line in his report. "If I stay silent, I betray the uniform. If I speak, I lose it." Myra felt the paper tremble in her hands. Now she understood. He hadn't betrayed the country. He had tried to save it, and they buried him for it. As she stood up, she heard footsteps. Fast, she turned. Ryan. He looked angry, or scared, or both. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. "I could ask you the same. I saw you sneaking around. I followed." Myra stared at him. "Then you saw the truth." He didn't answer. "I saved your leg," she said. "Now, do something right. Say nothing." Rayon looked at her, then at the crate. "What is all this?" he asked. "Proof." "Proof of what?" "That everything they told us was a lie." He opened another file. Read one page, then two. His face changed. "This is big. I know. What will you do?" She looked at him. "I don't know yet." The next day, everyone felt it, a shift in the air. The instructors were tighter, the officers quieter. Even the food tasted different. Something was coming. At night, Mira found another note under her pillow. "You've seen too much." No signature, no handwriting, just those 4 words. She didn't sleep that night. She just stared at the ceiling and whispered into the dark. "I'm not afraid of the truth." But maybe she should have been, because now, the silence around her wasn't empty. It was loaded, and someone, somewhere, was getting ready to break it. But not in the way she hoped. Not with truth, but with destruction. And she was standing right in the middle of it. The wind was stronger that morning. Not just in the sky but in the way people walked, in how they looked at her. Myra felt it the moment she stepped onto the training grounds. The stairs weren't like before. They weren't just filled with hate. They were filled with something else now. Fear, rumors had started to spread. She didn't know how. Maybe Rayan had talked. Maybe someone saw her at the old storage unit. Or maybe someone was always watching. She kept her eyes down, but she could feel the air shift around her like smoke. She stood in formation. The drills began. But Mira's mind was no longer in the rhythm of commands. She was thinking of the folder, the report, her father's warning, and the note left under her pillow. "You've seen too much." That sentence played over and over in her head like a ticking clock. During lunch, she sat alone again. No one came near her table. Even those who used to mock her now avoided her completely. Some glanced at her tray, then looked away like it was dangerous to be near her food. She saw Rion at a distant table. He didn't make eye contact. His hands were shaking slightly. He looked like he wanted to leave the room. When lunch ended, Mira walked back toward the dorms, but halfway there, she saw something. On the wall near the mess hall, painted in red, "Traitor's blood never dockeries." Someone had written it overnight. Big letters. Loud message. It wasn't just a joke anymore. It was a warning. Or maybe a declaration. Later, while everyone went back to training, Myra was called again, this time not to the commander's office, but to the administrative building, room for C. She had never been there. It was used for tribunal reviews, rarely occupied. When she entered, 3 officers sat behind a table. None of them smiled. One spoke first. Cadet Mira Saeed. We are conducting a routine evaluation. Please sit. Routine. Nothing about this was routine. Still, she sat. The second officer asked, Are you in possession of any unauthorized documents? Mira blinked. No. Have you accessed restricted archives? No. Have you entered any unassigned zones on base property? No. He paused. Were you, or were you not seen near restricted storage 3 days ago? She didn't answer. The first officer leaned forward. Silence is an innocence, cadet. She took a breath. I was looking for my father's records. The third officer, who hadn't spoken yet, narrowed his eyes. Why? Because no one ever told me the truth. Silence. Then he said, Some truths are buried for good reason. No, Myra said, her voice sharper now. Some lies are protected by cowards. That sentence froze the room. The first officer scribbled something in his notebook. The others glanced at each other. No one responded directly. You may go, one finally said. Just like that, she stood. But as she turned, the third officer added, The truth won't save you, cadet. It didn't save him. Back in her room, Mira sat on her bed, breathing hard. She wasn't afraid of being punished. She was afraid of being silenced. Slowly, quietly, the way her father had been. She pulled out the file again. Read the report her father had written, words blurred with old ink and weight. He had known they would come after him. He had known the cost. But he still wrote it, still signed his name. Mira made a choice then. She wouldn't hide anymore. She copied the report onto new sheets, wrote a summary in her own words, added her own note. Her voice, then she did something dangerous. She slid the file under Rayan's door. If anything happened to her, someone else would know. That night, as the lights went out, Mira waited, in the dark, listening, for footsteps. For whispers, for the silence that meant someone was watching. At 2 a.m., she heard it. A knock, not loud, just 3 taps on the door. She opened it. No one was there, but on the floor another. Note, this one was longer. You don't understand what you've done. Stop now or next time. It won't be a warning. She looked up and down the hallway. Nothing, no sound. No footsteps. Just that deep, awful stillness. She closed the door, locked it and sat down. Her hands were shaking but her mind was calm. She had already decided in the morning. Something happened that changed everything. The cadets were ordered into the auditorium. Full assembly. Everyone, no exceptions. On the stage stood Commander Harun. Next to him, Major Idris. No one spoke as the room filled. Then Harun stepped forward. A recent breach has been discovered within this institution. Someone has accessed sensitive material without clearance. He paused. Security is now being reviewed. Surveillance has been activated in all dormitories. Communication will be monitored. If anyone is found in possession of restricted information, disciplinary action will be immediate. His voice was cold. His eyes never left Mira. Trust is the foundation of this uniform. Those who cannot be trusted do not belong. He turned and left. Major Idris said nothing, just looked at Mira for a moment, and then followed. Back in the training yard, things were different. No more whispers, no more jokes, just tension. Myra completed every drill, hit every target, never broke form, but she could feel the rope tightening around her. At night, she went to the back of the storage unit again. Just once, to collect the rest of the documents. She couldn't leave them there, not anymore. When she opened the door, everything was gone. The crate, the papers, the photos, gone. Even the dust was disturbed. Someone had come before her. She turned and ran back to her room, opened her drawer. The copied files she made also gone. Only one thing remained, a single sheet of paper. Her father's original letter, with one new line written at the bottom. That wasn't there before. Stop or you'll join me sooner than you think. She fell back into her chair. Someone had been in her room, had gone through her things and left that note, not to threaten her, to warn her. Who? Why? The next day, Rayan didn't come to training. People noticed. The instructor asked. No one answered. That evening, a message was announced. Cadet Rayan Malik has been transferred due to a family emergency. But Mira knew that wasn't the truth. She checked under his door. The file was gone. No note, no message, nothing. He was just removed. And now, she was alone again. Except she wasn't. Because late that night, she received one final surprise. A slip of paper under her bed, folded into a triangle. Inside dash coordinates. Not a note, not a threat, not a warning. Just numbers. A time, a place. Behind the old mess hall. Midnight. She waited until everyone slept, snuck out, walked through the darkness and found him. Major Idris, waiting, in his hand a folder. He looked at her, eyes heavy with something between guilt and fear. Your father wasn't the only one who tried to stop it, he said. What is this? My report never sent, buried, like his. I knew what they were doing. I saw it, but I didn't speak. I couldn't. Why now? Because you're louder than he ever was. and they're more afraid of you than they ever were of him. He handed her the folder. But this time, he said, don't carry it alone, or you'll disappear like the rest of us. She opened the file, read the first line, and knew everything was about to change. But change always comes at a cost, and someone in that academy had already decided she was too dangerous to stay. Myra walked through the long hallway with her shoulders stiff and eyes focused straight ahead. She wasn't just a cadet anymore. She was now the center of a quiet storm that no one could see but everyone could feel. The warning under her pillow had been simple but terrifying. You've seen too much. That meant someone was watching her. Someone knew she had the report. Someone knew what her father had written all those years ago, and they were afraid. Afraid enough to leave her a message in the middle of the night. The next morning, things were worse. Much worse. The cadets didn't whisper anymore. They didn't mock her, they just avoided her like she was carrying a virus no one wanted to catch. Even Rayon didn't speak to her. He barely looked in her direction. Something had changed, and she didn't know what it was yet. After breakfast, during the flag ceremony, an announcement came over the loudspeaker. All cadets will report to their squads. Training has been temporarily suspended. Security review in progress. Everyone looked around, confused. This had never happened before. Mira felt a strange chill in her spine. It wasn't from the air, it was something else. Fear, not her own others. She knew now they were afraid of her. She returned to her dorm. The door was slightly open. That was wrong. She always locked it. Always. She stepped inside slowly, her heart thudding. Everything looked normal at first. Her bed, her drawer, her boots lined up the way she left them. But when she opened the drawer where she had hidden the copy of the file her father's report, it was gone. She stood there, frozen. Then she opened her closet. Her bag was half unzipped. That too was wrong. Her hands trembled slightly as she checked every corner of her room. Only one thing remained, her father's original letter. It was still under her mattress, but something about it felt different. She unfolded it. Her hand stopped. At the bottom of the page, a new line had been added. Stop, or you'll disappear like him. Mira couldn't breathe for a second. Someone had been inside, touched her things, taken the report, and left her this. Not just a warning now, a threat. That evening, she sat outside near the old barracks where no one went anymore. The wind was cold against her skin, but she didn't move. Her mind was racing. Who could have taken the file? Who had access to her room? And why leave the letter behind? Unless they wanted her to know they were watching. Unless they wanted to see how far she'd go. Just before lights out, Rayan passed her. He didn't stop. But as he walked by, he whispered without turning. They know. She looked up quickly, but he was already gone. That night, sleep didn't come. She kept her boots on, her jacket nearby, and a small flashlight under her pillow, just in case. At exactly 3:12 a.m., a soft sound came from the hallway. Not footsteps, something lighter, a whisper of movement. Mira got up, slowly opened her door. Empty hallway, but something lay on the floor. A folded piece of paper. She picked it up and closed the door again, unfolded it. Tomorrow, after lights out, old library basement. Come alone. No name, no explanation, just that. She stared at the words. Her hand tightened around the paper. It could be a trap, or it could be a door. Either way, she had to walk through it. The next day passed slowly. Training resumed, but it felt like a show. The instructors shouted louder than usual. The drills were more aggressive. The pressure was thicker in the air. Mira followed every order, stayed silent, waited. That night, after lights out, she moved quickly. Soft steps, no noise. Down the back stairs, past the kitchens, through the broken courtyard gate, toward the old library. The building was dark, empty. The door creaked open when she pushed. She used the flashlight. Inside, dust and silence. Then, toward the back, a small door marked archives. She opened it. Narrow stairs led down into blackness. One step at a time, careful, heart pounding. When she reached the bottom, a dim bulb flickered above, and someone stepped out from the shadows. Major Idris. She stared at him, breath caught. You, he nodded. You weren't supposed to find that file, he said softly, but I hoped you would. Why? She asked. Because your father wasn't alone, he said. There were others, a few of us, but when he disappeared, we stayed quiet, some out of fear, others, guilt. Did you help them? She asked. No, he said, but I didn't stop them either. He reached into his coat and handed her something, a sealed envelope. He gave this to me years ago, told me to give it to you if you ever came here. I never thought I would. Mira took it with trembling hands. The seal was unbroken. She opened it carefully. Inside, another letter, longer this time, handwritten. Her father's voice echoed in every word. Mira, if you're reading this, they've let you in far enough to be in danger. Don't stop now. You're closer than I ever was. I tried to expose them. The weapons deal, the false missions, the names, but they erased it all. They'll do the same to you. If you're not smarter than I was, trust no one fully, not even this man. Make copies, hide them, choose the time and place. When you speak, make sure the world is listening. Mira read it again and again. She looked up at Major Idris. What weapons deal? A mission, he said. 12 years ago. supposed to be clean, just training in another country, but it was a cover. Weapons were moved illegally, money changed hands. Your father found out, refused to sign, filed a report. They buried him, and now, they'll bury you, too if you don't act carefully. Myra swallowed hard. Why now? Because someone else is digging again, not just you, someone in the system, and they think you're the leak. Am I? She asked. He smiled faintly. You are now. She left the basement quietly. Envelope in hand, no one saw her return. At least she hoped. But the next morning, Rayon was gone, not just from her dorm. Gone from the academy. His name removed from the list. His things cleaned out. Another message from the system. Get involved. Disappear. Mira returned to her room. Locked the door. Sat on the floor. She opened the envelope again. Inside, behind the letter, something else. A flash drive. Old, small. She plugged it into her locked tablet. A single folder opened. Hollow ground phase 2. Inside maps, names, orders, evidence. This was what her father had tried to expose. This was what got him silenced. And now, it was in her hands. She closed the file, pulled out the drive, hid it under her boot sole. Then she sat back, thinking, breathing. Her eyes burned. Not from tears, but from what she had to do next. Speak, and risk everything. Or stay silent, and vanish like him. Either way, the academy was no longer a training ground. It was a trap, and she had just stepped into the center of it. Mira walked through the academy grounds like a ghost. The sun was out, cadets marched, instructors barked commands, but everything felt fake now, like a stage, like actors playing a script. Only Mira knew what lay behind the curtain. Rayon was gone, just like that. No explanation, no goodbye. One day there, next day erased. Mira kept replaying his last whisper. They know. He had warned her, and now he was gone. She wondered if they had taken him, or if he had run, maybe both. She couldn't ask anyone, couldn't trust anyone. Even the instructors watched her now, smiled too much, or not at all. Something had shifted, and then came the call. Her presence was requested in the commander's office. That never happened to cadets. Her heart thumped in her chest as she walked toward the main building. The corridors were quiet, too quiet when she knocked. A voice said, "Enter." Commander Riemann sat at his desk. A tall man with a cold face, behind him medals and flags, the perfect image of power. "Sit," he said. Mira obeyed. "You've been performing well," he said, looking at a file, "but we've noticed irregular behavior, night walks, unscheduled absences, quiet meetings. Would you like to explain?" Mira didn't blink. "Sometimes I can't sleep. I walk to clear my mind. At 3 a.m, he asked without smiling. "I don't check the time," she replied. He looked up slowly. You're your father's daughter," he said. "Stubborn, idealistic, dangerous." That word dangerous, he meant it, not as a joke, as a warning. "Sir, I just want to serve with honor," she said quietly. "Yes," he replied. "Honor, a beautiful word, but it's also heavy. Some cadets drown under it." His eyes locked with hers. "That's all for now. You may go." She stood up, saluted, turned, and walked away. Every step felt like a test. Every second, she waited for someone to grab her, but no one did. Outside, she breathed deeply, but her hands were shaking. That night, she waited until the dorm lights were out. Then she opened her locker and pulled out the hidden notebook. She copied everything from the flash drive into it by hand. Maps, names, dates. If they took her tablet, they'd find nothing. But this was her shield. She folded the pages and slipped them into a hollowed book. Tactical War Theory. No one ever read it. The next day, drills resumed. Harder, longer. It felt like they were trying to break her body. But wouldn't Myra's mind was stronger now? Sharper, focused. That afternoon, a new cadet joined their squad. Zoya, confident, friendly. She asked too many questions. "Where do you like to train? What do you read at night? Do you ever go outside after curfew?" Mira smiled politely. But inside, alarms went off. Zoya was planted. She was sure of it. A watcher, or worse. That night, Myra left. Her dorm again, but not for the library. She went to the south wall, a quiet corner with a broken surveillance camera. She waited. 10 minutes passed. Then footsteps. Idris. He looked tired, nervous. "They know you have it," he said immediately. "The flash drive. They're searching rooms tomorrow. Random inspection." Mira's heart skipped. "How do you know?" "Because I was ordered to lead the search," he said bitterly. "They don't trust me anymore either." "Then it's time," Mira whispered. She handed him the flash drive. "Take it. Hide it somewhere, off-site." He shook his head. "They'll watch me." "Then make them watch you," she replied. "Make it obvious, while I do something else." Idris nodded slowly. "You're brave," he said. "No," she replied. "I'm tired of being afraid." The next morning, the inspections began. Cadets lined up. Rooms searched. Lockers opened. Bags emptied. When they came to Mira's room, she stood calmly. They tore through everything. Mattress, shoes, books. The officer picked up Tactical War Theory, flipped it, frowned. Too boring to bother. He tossed it aside. Mira exhaled slowly. When they left, she sat on her bed. But then something happened. A note was slipped under her door. Again, she picked it up. Rayan is alive, but not safe. If you want him back, come alone. Midnight West Fence. She read it twice. Could it be real? Or a trap? Either way she had to go. She dressed in black, moved quietly, slipped out through the kitchen exit, reached the west fence. A figure waited in the dark. She approached slowly. Rayan, no answer. Then the figure stepped forward. It wasn't Rayan. It was Zoya, smiling. He's not here, she said. But I am. Why? Myra asked. To talk? Zoya said. You're smart, brave, but reckless. You don't understand the game yet. Explain it, Myra said coldly. Zoya stepped closer. The academy is not what it seems. It trains soldiers, but also people who erase threats, not with bullets, with files, accidents, disappearances. Mira's jaw clenched. And you're one of them. I was, Zoya said. Not anymore. They left my brother behind on a failed mission. Covered it up, said he deserted. I tried to speak. They punished me. Then recruited me to clean others. Mira's mind spun. Was this another game? Another lie. Zoya reached into her pocket, handed Mira a chip. Surveillance audio. Commander Riman talking about your father and you. Take it. Use it. Why give it to me? Mira asked. Because if you bring them down, maybe I'll get justice too. Zoya walked away, vanished into the night. Mira stood there, cold, confused, but burning inside. She returned to her room, played the audio, crackling. Then a voice. Riemann, she has it. We'll find it. Just like we handled her father. These idealists never last. Mira's hand shook. She had what she needed. Proof, names, voices, lies. It was time, but she couldn't do it alone. The next day she found Idris again, told him everything. Can you get me out? She asked. Off campus just for one night. I need to upload this publicly. Idris nodded. There's a transport, maintenance route. Leaves at midnight. I'll get you on it. That night, Mira climbed into the back of the truck. Covered in tarp, Idris tapped once and walked away. The truck moved. Every bump felt like a heartbeat. Every turn, a risk. But then they were out. Free. She waited. Then jumped off near small town. Found a cheap cafe with Wi-Fi. Opened her notebook. Uploaded the files to a secure site. Sent it to press contacts. Military bloggers. Anonymous leaks. The audio. The maps. Everything. Then, she waited. Minutes. Then hours. Until finally her phone buzzed. A link. A headline. Exclusive. Cadet exposes deep corruption in military academy. It had begun. She returned before dawn. Slipped into her dorm. Her heart calm now. She had done it, or so she thought, because just as she was about to lie down, the door burst open. Armed guards. Red lights. Sirens. Cadet Mira Khan, an officer shouted. You are under arrest for espionage, breach of national security, and treason. Mira stood. Fear in her eyes. Only fire. Then you better be ready to explain it to the world, she said quietly. As they cuffed her, the officer hesitated. Then his phone buzzed. He looked, his hand shook. The screen showed a message. World media. Demands answers. Is the academy hiding war crimes? Mira smiled. You're late, she whispered. But the fight had just begun. Myra sat alone in the cold room. Her hands were cuffed to the metal table. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, flickering now and then. The silence wasn't just around her, it was inside her too. No one had spoken to her since they brought her in. They hadn't even told her where she was. Underground, maybe? Hidden, like the truth she tried to expose, but she wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Fear had burned away the moment she saw the headlines. She had started something too big to silence completely. The door opened, a man walked in. Not a soldier, not an officer, someone else. He wore a suit, clean.com. His voice was smooth. Mira Khan, he said, sitting across from her. You've made quite a mess. Mira didn't answer. You leaked classified information, he continued. Expose names, operations, command structures. That's treason. What's treason? She said slowly. Is burying the truth and calling it discipline. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to offer you a choice. Mira raised an eyebrow. You can fight this alone. You'll lose, or you can disappear. We'll say you dropped out. Left quietly. We'll clean your name. You'll live. But only if you never speak again. Mira leaned forward. You're afraid, she said. The world saw what I showed them. Yes, he nodded. But the world forgets. We don't. She stared at him. I'm not accepting silence. Not again, the man stood up. Then you'll be erased. He walked out. The door slammed, and the lights turned off. Hours passed, maybe days. Mira couldn't tell. She was given food, water, but no news, no time. Only waiting, until one morning, the door opened again. This time, it was someone she knew, Commander Remen. His eyes were different now, angry, tired. You ruined my legacy, he said coldly. You embarrassed the system I built. Mira met his eyes. You mean the lies you built? I gave this country order, he growled. And you brought chaos with your emotions. Truth isn't chaos, she replied. It's justice. Remen stepped forward. Do you know what happens to people like you? Yes, Mira whispered. They become history. He laughed once. You're not strong enough to become history. Then why are you here? She asked, his jaw clenched. For a moment, he looked unsure, like he didn't expect that question. Then he threw a file on the table. You think your little leak changed anything? We've already shifted locations, new names, new passwords. You delayed us nothing more. Mira opened the file, blacked out lines, new project titles. So you admit it's true? She asked. What I exposed. He didn't answer. Just stared at her. Why are you scared of one cadet? She asked. Because you're not just one cadet, he said. You're your father's daughter, and he almost broke us once. Mira leaned back. The name she hadn't heard in years. What did you do to him? Remen's face twisted. He was warned. He chose war. He disappeared himself. Myra's hands clenched. Then so will I, but I won't be silent. The door opened again. This time, a soldier stepped in, whispered something to Remen. His expression changed. Anger, confusion, and something Myra didn't expect. Worry. He left the room without a word. The door stayed open. Myra stood, unsure. But no one stopped her. She walked out slowly, down the hall, then stopped. Soldiers stood frozen in place, watching a screen. A live news broadcast. Breaking news, the reporter said. A second whistleblower has come forward with video proof supporting the leaked documents from Cadet Myra Khan. Public pressure is rising. Parliament has called an emergency session. Top military leaders are being questioned. Myra's heart jumped. Another whistleblower. She leaned closer. The video played. Blurry footage, secret recordings, and a voice. Zoya's voice. I was told to watch Mira, but I couldn't. She reminded me of who I used to be. Mira's throat tightened. Zoya had risked everything. She didn't vanish. She had gone deeper. Mira turned only to see Commander Remen storming back down the hall. He looked furious. Get her out of here, he barked. But the guards hesitated. One of them spoke up. Sir, the orders just changed. She's not a prisoner anymore. From who? Remen demanded. The soldier lifted his tablet. Minister of Defense. Direct order. Mira watched him. For the first time, he looked powerless. Enjoy your moment, he muttered. The world spins fast. You'll be forgotten again. Maybe, she replied. But not today. Hours later, Mira was in a hotel room. A small team from the press guarded her. She had given more interviews in one day than she had spoken in her whole life. People called her brave, a hero, a symbol. But inside she still felt heavy. Rayan was still missing. Her father's truth still hidden, and the academy still operational. But something had shifted. A crack had formed. That night, her phone rang. A voice spoke only one sentence. They have him, but not for long. The line went dead. No name, no number. But she knew Rayan. She wasn't done yet. She met with Zoya the next day. In secret, in a parking garage, like something from a movie. Zoya wore a scarf over her head, eyes tired but alive. You saved me, Mira said. No, Zoya replied. You saved us all. They still have Rayan, Mira said. And maybe my father too. Zoya nodded. Then we find them. But we don't go in blind. We build a team. Mira looked at her. Who else? Zoya smiled. You'll see a few days later. They met in an abandoned library. 6 people, all in plain clothes. Former cadets, ex-intelligence officers, even a retired colonel. All with one thing in common. They had been betrayed by the same system. We call ourselves the Recall, the colonel said. Because we're not gone. We're coming back. Mira felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Real hope. The mission was clear. Find Rayan. Follow the trail to her father. Finish what they started. But first they had to expose one more layer. A secret facility known only as Unit 9. Zoya pulled out a map. It's off-grid, no roads, no communication towers, only accessible by air or foot. That's where they keep the ones who talk too much. Then we talk louder, Mira said. The plan was risky. But every part of Mira's life had been risked since the day she opened that flash drive. They trained in silence, shared signals, timings, escape routes. The date was set, August 11th. They would infiltrate Unit 9 not to destroy it, but to free whoever was left inside and record everything. It wasn't just about Rayan anymore. It was about every voice that was buried. And Mira knew, deep in her bones, that something was waiting inside Unit 9. Something bigger, something personal. She looked at the last photo of her father. A soldier, a man of honor, a man who vanished. She touched the picture and whispered, "We're coming for you." The world thought the story had ended, that the girl who spoke truth had done her part. But the truth was just beginning to rise. The forest was dark. Wet leaves crunched under Mira's boots as she moved silently through the thick trees. Every breath came out as mist. She could hear Zoya just behind her. No one spoke. They didn't need to. Each step was timed. Each turn. Remembered? They had been planning this for weeks. Unit 9 wasn't just a place, it was a myth. A place whispered about by people who suddenly disappeared. Rayan was there. Maybe her father too. But Mira couldn't let hope blind her. This was dangerous. One wrong move, and none of them would come back. They reached the edge of a cliff just before dawn. Below, hidden between hills and trees, was a gray compound. Fenced, guarded, silent. It doesn't look like a prison, Zoya whispered. It looks like a grave. Mira raised her binoculars. 2 armed men at the gate. No movement inside. No towers. No dogs. Just stillness. They want it invisible, Myra said. So they hide it in silence. Behind them, the small team of 6 waited. The colonel checked his watch. 3 minutes to window. Mira closed her eyes, replaying the plan again. Zoya would lead. The distraction at the north entrance. Mira and Rihan, the youngest tech expert in their group, would enter through the service hatch on the east wall. It had a blind spot, just 90 seconds long, when the outer sensors rotated. That was their chance. We move on your signal, Mira whispered. Zoya nodded, then disappeared into the trees. At exactly 4:02, the explosion went off. Not big, loud enough to shake the trees. The guards at the front ran towards the smoke. Myra and Rayhan sprinted downhill, careful not to slip. When they reached the wall, Rayhan pulled out his device. He plugged it into the small access panel hidden behind moss. 30 seconds, he said. Mira held her breath. Every tick of the screen felt like thunder in her chest. Done, Rayhan whispered. The hatch clicked open. They crawled inside. The tunnel was narrow, wet. It smelled like dust and rust. They moved fast. Mira led the way. After 10 minutes of crawling, they reached a ladder. Up top, another hatch. Myra slowly pushed it open. Darkness, a storage room. They climbed in, breathing hard. Rihan pulled out a small camera and scanned the hallway beyond. Clear, he said. Mira stepped out. The hallway was quiet. Too quiet. No footsteps, no buzz of electricity. Just silence. Then voices, faint, down the hall. Myra signaled Rihan to stay close. They followed the sound. Room by room, they passed empty cells. No beds, just chairs and cameras. This place watches more than it punishes, Rihan whispered. Then they heard it. A cough. A real human sound. Mira turned sharply. A heavy door stood at the end. She ran to it. Locked. Rihan dropped to his knees, working fast. This isn't just a lock, he said. Its voice activate. Only opens for specific people. Mira looked through the small window in the door. Her breath caught. Inside was Rayon. He looked thinner, pale, but alive. His eyes met hers. Shock, then something deeper. He mouthed one word. Trap. Mira stepped back. It's a trap, she whispered. But it was too late. Alarms rang through the compound. Red lights flashed. Doors slammed shut behind them. Rihan looked panicked. They knew we were coming. Mira pulled him away from the door. We move now. They ran back the way they came, but the hallway was sealed. Metal walls dropped from the ceiling. No way out. There's another path, Rihan said, checking his tablet. South wing. Old ventilation shaft. They turned left, just as heavy boots pounded the hallway. Guards. Dozens of them. Mira shoved Rihan through the open door and slammed it shut. She blocked it with a chair. Keep going, she yelled. I'll lead them away. No, Rihan cried. We go together. Mira looked at him. Her voice was soft. You have the footage. You know the path. They need you. Rihan's eyes filled with tears. But I need you. Mira smiled. Then live. And come back for me. She ran straight toward the guards. No gun, no shield. Just a voice. You think locking me here will silence the truth? She shouted. The guards hesitated. One of them recognized her. That's her, he yelled. That's Myra Khan. They grabbed her, forced her down. She didn't fight, not this time. She had one goal. Buy time. Inside the cell, Rayan watched it all on a monitor, his fists clenched. They caught her, he whispered. Behind him, a voice spoke. She bought you 10 minutes. Rayan turned. An old man stood in the corner, weak, graybeard. One eye closed. His hand shook. Who are you? Rayan asked. The man smiled. The question is, who are you? Rayan stared, then gasped. No, it can't be. It can, the man said softly. I'm your uncle, and I know where your father is. In the control room, Commander Riemann watched the screens. Mira was tied to a chair. Guards surrounded her. You just can't stop, he said, stepping inside. Even after we gave you a chance to disappear. Mira looked up, bloody lip, swollen eye, still smiling. You're scared of me? That's why I'm still alive. Riemann walked closer. You're alive because I want to know who helped you. Who's the second whistleblower? Mira said nothing. He grabbed her face. Give me a name. I'll give you something better, she whispered. A memory. He frowned. What do you remember 2003? She said. Kashmir Operation, Unit Bravo. Your team was ambushed, and one soldier saved you. Riemann blinked. That memory was buried deep. What are you talking about? That soldier was my father, she said. And you left him behind. Riemann's face changed. Shock? Then anger. You don't know what you're saying. I know you made him a traitor so no one would ask questions. He slammed his fist on the table. He went rogue. No, Mira said. He went honest. And you called it disobedience. For a long second, Riemann said nothing. Then he turned away. Put her in isolation. I'm done with her. But as the guards grabbed her, a loud siren went off. Lights blinked. Emergency alert on every screen. The system was hacked. Security breach in East Corridor. A voice shouted. Riemann froze. How? He barked. She was alone, but she wasn't. Rihan had made it out. And now? The recall was inside. Zoya led the charge. The colonel took the upper level. They moved fast, silencers only, non-lethal. One mission: find Myra and extract everyone. Rehan hacked the system again. Doors opened, lights shut down, confusion spread. Mira, still handcuffed, was dragged into a dark room. Alone, but not for long. The door creaked. A shadow entered. Myra's heart nearly stopped. You came back, she whispered. Zoya smiled. I told you, we fight louder. She unlocked her cuffs, handed her a headset. Your brother's alive. And your father might be too. But we need to move now. They ran through chaos. Smoke alarms, shouting. But Mira was focused. On one thing only. Finding her family. When they reached the south wing, Rehan stood by the open cell. Rehan ran into Myra's arms. You found me, he whispered. I told you I would. The older man stepped out behind him. Slowly, you're Mira, he asked. She turned. Her eyes filled. Yes, I knew you'd come. Are you, my father? He stepped into the light. One eye shut, scars across his face. I used to be. Mira held his hand. You still are. Outside, a helicopter approached. Their escape route. But inside, Remind was loading a weapon. His pride destroyed, his power broken. He had one last goal: stop Mira, once and for all. He found her near the exit. A standoff, gun pointed. No more lies. You were supposed to be nothing, he growled. Just another voice lost in the system. Mira stepped forward. You built a cage. I became a key. You're finished, he said. No, you are, she replied. Behind him, Zoya stepped out. Camera rolling. Live feed streaming. Say hi to the world, Zoya said coldly. Remen turned, but too late. The whole nation was watching, and everything was recorded. His threats, his betrayal, his fear. The guards dropped their weapons. The recall stood tall. Mira walked out, into the morning light, her family beside her, but in her heart she knew the fight wasn't over. It had just begun. The sun was rising when Myra stepped out of the compound. For a second, the warmth of the light touched her face, and everything went quiet. She had made it. They all had. Rehan, Rayan, Zoya, and the man who once disappeared into the shadows, her father. But freedom was complicated. Cameras clicked as soon as they reached the extraction point. Drones buzzed above them. The recall team was pulling them out, but the world was already watching. You're live, Zoya whispered as she handed Mira a mic. Myra blinked, confused. Live. The broadcast went global. Rahan said, they saw everything. Your arrest, his face? The truth. Myra looked down at her blood-stained clothes. Her hands were shaking. I didn't plan to be a symbol, she said softly. Zoya smiled. Good symbols are easy to break. But you're real. They flew back to the capital in silence. Rayan leaned against her shoulder. Her father sat across from her, barely speaking. His eyes, once sharp, were tired, empty. But when he looked at her, she saw something still alive. Pride, regret, love. When they landed, everything had changed. People lined the streets, holding signs, some cheering, some crying, and some angry. You're not just a whistleblower now, Zoya warned. You're a threat to their history, to their control. Mira nodded, then let them feel threatened. The next morning, she was summoned to appear before the Truth Commission. It had been created in response to the leaked footage. Parliament had no choice. Millions had seen what the government tried to hide. Unit 9 was trending in every language, and so was Myra Khan. The hearing room was cold. Bright lights above. Long table ahead. Men and women in suits behind microphones. No warmth, just judgment. Myra sat alone in the center. No lawyer, no advisor. Just truth. One of the officials cleared his throat. Miss Khan, do you understand that what you're about to say will be broadcast live and recorded as official testimony? Yes, she said. Her voice was steady. Do you understand that you may be prosecuted for crimes against national security, depending on your answers today? Yes. Then let us begin. The questions started like knives. Did you break into a classified facility without legal authorization? Yes. Did you publish confidential government files to the public? Yes. Do you admit to collaborating with a known defector to leak military secrets? I collaborated with my brother, who was imprisoned without trial. Do you deny that your actions endangered the lives of officers working within Unit 9? Mira leaned forward. I believe it was Unit 9 that endangered lives. Mine, my brother's, my father's, and thousands more. There was silence. One of the older men at the table removed his glasses. Ms. Khan, you seem to believe you're some kind of hero. Mira shook her head. No, I just stopped being afraid. Then she looked up at the camera. They called us liars, cowards, but we're still here. We were tortured, silenced, buried, but we're still here. Why? Because truth doesn't die in silence. It waits, and when it rises, it brings everything with it. In the corner, Rayan watched with wide eyes. For years, she was just his sister. Now, she was something else. That night, Mira's video was played across every channel. It was shared more than any speech in recent history. People saw not just what happened, but how it felt. The pain, the courage, the cost. Protests started in small towns, then cities, then nations. Survivors from other hidden units came forward. Some were soldiers, some were scientists. All had stories. All had scars. Mira sat alone on the rooftop, watching the lights of the city. Her father walked up beside her. He looked older in the light, softer. "You remind me of your mother," he said. Mira turned to him. "You never talk about her." "I didn't know how. She died believing I was a traitor. That broke me." Mira put her hand on his. "She'd believe you now." He looked away. "I'm not sure I believe myself yet." Then he pulled something from his pocket, a small box. Inside was a locket. "She gave this to me, told me to give it to you. When you were ready." Myra opened it. Inside, a picture of a young woman, strong, kind eyes. And beside it, a single word carved in the metal: stand. Mira smiled through tears. She knew, she always did. Days passed, then weeks. The government was split. Half demanded accountability. The other half tried to bury the story again, but it was too late. Myra was called to speak again, this time not in court, but at the World Press Forum. Rehan helped her prepare. Zoya organized security. Her father stayed close, never leaving her side. "This speech isn't just words," Rehan said. "It's the match. The one that lights everything." Mira looked at herself in the mirror. She didn't recognize the girl who once hid in a small apartment, waiting for a call that never came. Now she was a voice, a storm. The day of the forum arrived. The hall was packed. Cameras, journalists, activists, even foreign leaders. Mira walked onto the stage, wearing the same jacket her father once wore in the field. The audience stood, some in silence, some in support. She stepped up to the mic. "Years ago," she began, "my family vanished into silence. My father disappeared in a classified mission. My brother was arrested without reason. I was told to forget, to move on. I didn't, because silence is not peace. It's fear." She paused. "They called it national security, but what is a nation without truth? What are we protecting, if we destroy our own people in the process?" Her voice grew louder, stronger. "They tortured me, tried to erase me, but they failed, because truth is louder. It echoes, it spreads. And today, it stands right here." People clapped, some cried. One journalist shouted, "What do you want now, Myra Khan?" Mira smiled. "Justice, not revenge, not war. Just the courage to tell the truth even when it costs everything." The crowd erupted. Across the world, her words echoed. "Truth is louder" became a global slogan. On walls, on shirts, online, in songs, in poems. And for once people weren't afraid to speak. But not everyone was celebrating. In a dark office, Commander Remen watched her speech in silence. He hadn't been arrested yet. Too many strings still protected him. But those strings were fraying. A knock on his door. A man in uniform entered. Quiet, cold. "They're coming for you," he said. "You can't stop it now." Remen nodded. "Then let them come. But remember this, when one traitor falls, another rises." The man looked at him. "She's not a traitor, she's a mirror. And you don't like what you see." Remen didn't answer. He just closed his eyes. Alone for the first time, back in the city, Mira visited her old apartment. Nothing had changed. The same broken window, the same flickering hallway light. She sat on the floor and pulled out a notebook, her mother's notebook, filled with quotes, dreams, prayers. She flipped to the last page. It was blank. She picked up a pen and wrote one sentence. "We weren't silent. We were waiting." Behind her, Rayan entered the room. He smiled. "You ready for the rally tomorrow?" Mira nodded. "I think the world is." Then she looked at him. "You're going to speak to—" Rayan froze. "Me. You were the first to suffer, the first to survive. Your voice matters." He took a deep breath. "Okay, but only if you stand beside me." Mira grinned. "Always." The rally brought millions. Streets flooded. Voices rose. From every class, every city, every past. They weren't just there for Mira. They were there for themselves, for their lost ones, for their own silence. When Mira took the stage with Rayan, the crowd went quiet. And then, she didn't speak. Rayan did. His voice shook, but it was real. "They broke me," he said. "In the dark, in cold rooms. They told me no one would ever hear me, that even if I screamed it wouldn't matter, but you heard me." She heard me. "And now, I speak because I can, because we all can." Mira held his hand as he finished, and in that moment, everything changed. Not with fire, not with war, but with a whisper turned into thunder. The world had changed, but the war inside Myra had not ended. After the rally, after the thunder of millions chanting her name, she felt empty, not weak, just unsure. For months, every step she took had been about exposing the truth, and now that it was out, what came next? Her apartment was filled with letters. Thousands. Survivors, children of the disappeared, even soldiers who once worked under Unit 9. Some wrote to thank her, others begged for help. Some just wanted to be heard. Rayan sat across the room, reading a letter from a mother who hadn't seen her son in 11 years. Mira watched him. He looked stronger now, his eyes clearer, but sometimes, when the room went quiet, he would still flinch like the past had knocked on the door. "We need something bigger," Mira said. Rayan looked up. "Bigger than what we've done, bigger than speeches, bigger than rallies. We need a system, a place, where every name, every story, every file, is protected forever. Not just exposed, but preserved, like a truth archive." He asked. She nodded. Exactly. One they can't erase. One they can't shut down. That night, she sent a message to Zoya and Rian. By morning, a team had formed. Volunteers, lawyers, coders, survivors. The Truth Network was born in silence, but it would shake the world again. Within a week, the first names appeared on the website, then faces, then full records. Hidden trials, secret prisons, everything the government had buried began to rise like ghosts. People came forward to verify them. Journalists added evidence, whistleblowers uploaded files from inside active units. It was dangerous, but it worked. The government called it cyber-terrorism, the people called it justice. Then something happened that no one expected. A retired general appeared on live TV. He had served under Commander Riemann. He stood before cameras and said only one sentence. What Mira Khan showed you is only the beginning. The anchor tried to interrupt, but he kept speaking names, dates, orders. Every word struck like a match. Within an hour, half the country was watching. Within a day, 6 other officials resigned. One was found dead. They're trying to cut the rot before it spreads, Zoya said. But it's already spread. They can't control it now. Myra didn't sleep that night. She sat by the window, watching the city lights. Her father joined her. You've done what no one else could, he said, but there's something else you need to know. He placed a folder in front of her. Myra opened it. Her hand shook. This is Unit 12. Yes, he said. Unit 9 wasn't the last. There are more, hidden deeper. Run by people even Riemann feared. Mira stared at the names. Her voice cracked, and they're still active. Yes, and you knew. I suspected. But now I'm sure. Mira looked up. Then we're not finished. No, he said. We're just beginning. Myra flew to Geneva to speak. At the United Nations. It wasn't planned. It wasn't safe. But after the Unit 12 leak, the world demanded answers. Delegates from across the globe watched as she stepped up to the podium. Some rolled their eyes, others leaned forward, and a few stood in silent respect. When I first spoke, she began, I thought truth alone would be enough. But truth without justice is just memory, and memory can fade. She held up the folder. This is proof that darkness still moves through the world, that silence still hides in powerful rooms. And we have a choice, bury it again, or face it. She paused. I choose to face it. A delegate from the Eastern Bloc stood. And what would you have us do, Ms. Khan? Invade your own country, Mira answered without hesitation. No. Just stop helping them. Stop funding them. Stop calling it internal security when it's state-sponsored torture. Her voice grew louder. We don't need your armies. We need your honesty, and your refusal to look away. The chamber went quiet. Then, for the first time in years, the room applauded together. Back home, the president called a press conference. Cameras filled the hall. The country held its breath. After review, she began, and under pressure, from the international community. I am ordering a full investigation into Units 9 through 12, and all associated programs. A temporary tribunal will be formed, and Commander Riemann is officially under arrest. People cheered. Some wept. Mira stood in the back of the room, watching it all. But her eyes weren't on the president. They were on the military official. Beside her, General Asif, a quiet man, too quiet. Later that night, she whispered to Rihan, Asif isn't clean. He's not clapping. He's calculating. Rihan nodded. I'll look into him. But Mira already knew there was always another layer. 2 days later, Mira was attacked. Not in the street, not with bullets, but with data. Her bank accounts were frozen. Her citizenship status changed. Her passport revoked. Within hours, she became a threat to national integrity in the system. They're trying to delete you, Zoya said. Digitally, then maybe. Literally. Myra didn't flinch. Then we go public. Again. Live that night. She walked into a small studio. No makeup, no polish, just truth. The stream was raw, unedited, and by morning, 20 million people had watched her say, they can freeze my money, but they won't freeze my voice. Donations poured in. Enough to restart the Truth Network servers. Enough to build firewalls. Enough to launch a legal defense team for every survivor coming forward. The system tried to silence her. The people made her louder. Then came the letter, handwritten, delivered by an old man with no name. Mira opened it and read only 4 lines. You think truth is your weapon. We know it's your weakness. Stop before we do what Unit 9 couldn't. You've been warned. Rayan grabbed the letter. What does it mean? Mira looked at her father. He was pale. It means someone survived Unit 12, and they're watching us. So what do? He asked. Myra stood up. We keep going, and we don't run. But she knew. They were close to the edge now, and someone in the shadows was preparing to push. A week later, a young girl was found at Myra's gate, bruised, crying, holding a flash drive. They said, to give it to you, she whispered. Mira hugged her, then opened the drive. What she saw stopped her breath. It wasn't data from Unit 12. It was video, from deep underground. People in cages, experiments, children, old men, women crying, soldiers watching, no uniforms, just masks. My God, Zoya whispered. It's still happening. Right now. Mira turned to her team. We go there. We get them out. We show the world what they're doing. Not as history, but as proof. Now Rihan frowned. You'll be hunted. This is not a leak. This is a rescue. Then let them hunt, Mira said. But we're not letting another child cry alone at our door. That night, she sent a message to the people. Short, clear. We found them. We're going in. If we don't make it back, carry the truth for us. Then she switched off the lights and disappeared. The rain fell hard as Myra stood outside the abandoned factory. The building looked dead, just broken walls and silence, but beneath it, a nightmare was alive. She wore black, like the others. No names, no signals, just purpose. Zoya stood beside her, holding the map. Rihan and Rayhan checked the equipment. The girl who brought the flash drive had given them everything, every tunnel, every shift time, every blind spot. We have 1 hour before the guards change, Zoya whispered. After that, we're ghosts. Mira nodded. Then let's move. The metal door creaked as they entered. Inside, it smelled of rust and fear. Every step echoed with a memory no one wanted to remember. The staircase led them underground, deeper than they expected. Layers of concrete, old wires, and red lights, blinking like dying eyes. At the 3rd level, they found it. A long hallway, silent, cold. The door at the end was steel, heavy, and locked. Rihan stepped forward, inserted a code, and the lock clicked. They entered quietly and saw hell, rows of cells, no bars, just clear glass walls. Inside, people stared blankly. Some didn't blink, some didn't move. Others rushed forward when they saw Mira. Their eyes held one word: hope. We found them, Rayan whispered. They're real. Mira stepped forward. We're here to help, she said softly. Please stay calm. But then a siren, loud, piercing, red lights, flooded the room. They know, Zoya shouted. We have 6 minutes, maybe less. Mira's voice cut through the panic. Open every cell. Get them out. Rihan, take the drive. Upload everything. We need the world to see this. The guards came fast. Black masks, no words, just violence. Rayan and Zoya fought them off while Mira unlocked the last row. She lifted a boy into her arms, barely breathing. Behind him, a woman fell. Leave me, the woman whispered. Save them. Mira didn't argue. She ran. The hallway filled with smoke. Someone screamed. Mira didn't look back. They had one mission: get out, upload the truth, and light the world on fire. At the exit, Rihan shouted, signal's weak. We need higher ground to upload the files. Myra turned. Then we go to the roof. But there was another sound. Nah, helicopters. The government was already here. They reached the rooftop just as the first spotlight hit them. Drop the drive, a voice boomed from a loudspeaker. Mira didn't listen. She handed it to Zoya. You're faster, she said. Run. Zoya hesitated. Mira, now. Mira shouted. Zoya ran. Rihan followed her, covering her from behind. Mira turned to face the light. You want me? She shouted. Come get me. The spotlight stayed on her. But no one fired. They were watching, recording. The media had arrived. Drones were circling. Live streams were active. The world was seeing everything. Mira looked up, rain falling on her face. Let them see who you really are, she whispered. Then dashed gunfire. Not from above, from below. Someone was shooting at the helicopters. One exploded midair. A rebel group had joined in. Veterans, survivors, people who believed. Chaos followed. Smoke, screams, fire. Mira grabbed a fallen child and ran to the stairwell. Rayhan met her halfway. We need to leave, now. Mira looked back one last time. The roof was burning, but in the flames, the truth had risen. Live footage of the prisoners, the guards, the secret facility, was everywhere now. On phones, on news, on every screen. They had done it. They disappeared for 3 days. Underground, moving from safe house to safe house. But the world above changed fast. The president gave a trembling speech. We were wrong, she said. Mira Khan was right. International courts issued arrest warrants. Not just for Commander Riemann, but for generals, ministers, even foreign partners. For the first time, the walls cracked, and truth became law. When Myra returned to the capital, she was not met with applause. She was met with silence, the kind that comes before a storm. The Truth Tribunal was announced. Real trials, real evidence. And Myra was called as the first witness. She walked into the courtroom in plain clothes. No cameras. Just the victims, the judges, and the men who once held power. Commander Riemann sat in a glass box. He looked older now. Smaller. He tried to smile. Mira didn't blink. She stood and told everything. From the day of the salute to the night of the rescue. Every name, every face, every scream. And when she was done, the judge asked, Why did you do it, Ms. Khan? Myra looked at Riemann, then at the court. Because no one else did, she said. And silence is a weapon too. Riemann stood. You think this ends with me? He laughed. I was just following orders. Mira leaned forward. Then, let's find the one who gave them. That night, someone tried to burn down the Truth Network office. They failed, but it was a warning. They're scared now, Rihan said. And desperate. Good, Myra replied. That means we're close. Then Zoya entered, pale. You need to see this, she whispered. She placed a photo on the table. Mira stared at it. Her hands trembled. This can't be real. It is, Zoya said. This man General Osifi's not who he claims to be. The photo showed Osif not in military uniform, but standing beside Riemann in Unit 12, years ago, smiling, no mask. He didn't shut down the program, Rihan whispered. He ran it. The final storm was coming, and this time, it would not be clean. The world called her a hero. Talk shows debated her courage. Schools spoke her name with pride, but Mira had gone quiet, away from microphones, away from applause. She lived near a quiet hilltop now, in a small rented house where the mornings were foggy and the nights were silent. Every week, she visited the families of Unit 12 survivors. Every day, she answered letters from people who found courage in her story. But inside her, a storm had not ended. The war outside was over. The war inside had just begun. One morning she received a brown envelope with no stamp, no name, just a black seal. Mira stared at it for a long time. Her hands trembled slightly. When she opened it, inside was a single letter and a photo. The photo was old, faded, a man in a soldier's uniform, holding a baby girl. Mira looked at the face. It wasn't her uncle, it was her father. A name she'd erased long ago. At the bottom of the photo, written in small handwriting, "Forgive me for what I built." The letter had no sender, no date, just words that shattered her peace. Was one of them, Mira. Before Unit 12 existed, I signed the first papers. I believed what they told me, that we were protecting the nation, but we were just hiding scenes. You were born into that world. I couldn't protect you from it. But I watched you tear it apart. You became the justice I never was. She read the letter 5 times. 10 times. By sunset, she still sat in the same spot. Zoya arrived with groceries. You okay? Mira nodded, but Zoya saw the paper. She picked it up gently. Read it, then whispered, "He's alive." Maybe, Mira said softly, or maybe, this is his apology before dying. Rihan called later that night. We traced the ink on the photo. It came from an old intelligence base, closed years ago, but someone used the facility last month. Mira felt a pull. She couldn't explain. She didn't want to find her father. She had to, for answers, for peace, for closure. The next morning she left with Zoya and Rihan, driving across provinces, following whispers. The journey was long, cold, empty towns, forgotten checkpoints. It felt like chasing a ghost. But on the third day, they found Eton Old Medical Camp, buried under dirt and vines. Inside there were documents, photos, even sealed reports, then a chair, a folded blanket, a journal. Rihan opened it carefully. It's his. This page talks about Project Horizon, a secret experiment before Unit 12. Smaller, harsher. Mira touched the pages. He started it, but he tried to end it too. At the back of the journal, there was a map, a red circle over a small mountain village. If he's still alive, Zoya whispered, he's there. They reached the village at dusk. Children played in the mud. Elders sat on porches. One old man pointed up the trail. A strange soldier came here years ago, built a small hut, talks to no one. Mira climbed the path alone. Each step felt heavier than the last. Finally, she saw the cabin. Smoke rose from a tiny chimney. The door was open. She stepped in. He was sitting near the fire, gray hair, wrinkled hands, a faded uniform on the wall. He didn't look surprised, just tired. "I knew you'd come," he said. "Your eyes are your mother's." Mira didn't speak at first. Her heart raced. She wanted to shout, to cry, but all she said was, "Why?" He looked at the fire. "Because I was a coward. I followed orders. Then I buried myself in silence." She stepped closer. "Why send me the letter now?" He looked at her with sorrow. "Because I'm dying, and because you deserved the truth from the beginning." They talked all night, about her mother, about Unit 12, about the hidden chain of command that stretched beyond borders. It wasn't just the army, he said. It was politicians, corporations. They built it together, and now they want it erased. Mira nodded. They failed. He smiled weakly. "Because of you?" In the morning, she stood at his door. He handed her a box. Inside were documents, voice logs, photos, the final files, he said. "The world will believe you now." Mira hesitated. "Do you want forgiveness?" He looked down. "I want peace. Whether I deserve it or not is up to you." She walked down the trail without answering. Back in the city, Mira gave the files to an international court. Headlines exploded. Countries demanded answers. Leaders resigned. Hidden players were exposed. But Mira didn't speak to the media, not this time. She sat quietly on her rooftop, watching the stars, thinking of a father who built monsters and a daughter who destroyed them. Zoya asked her one night, "Do you forgive him?" Mira didn't answer for a long time. Then she whispered, "I don't know, but I understand him now, and that's a beginning." A week later, she received one more envelope. Inside, a single photo. Her father, smiling in front of the cabin. No words, just a date written below. The day she visited, a note from the village elder was attached. He passed in his sleep. Peacefully, he said his daughter saved his soul. Mira held the photo close. For the first time in her life, she felt both pain and peace at once. Not every story ends with justice. Some end with truth, and that, sometimes, is enough. The world was watching again. This time, not through a grainy leaked video. This time, the cameras were waiting for her. International news channels counted down. A giant hall in Geneva had been prepared for months. Flags from every nation stood. Tall leaders, activists, survivors, and soldiers filled the seats. And at the center of it, a empty stage. Behind that stage, Mira waited. She stood quietly in a room lined with glass. Her reflection stared back at her, wearing a simple black suit, not military, not political, just human. Zoya stood beside her. Rihan waited near the door. A woman from the summit committee approached. You may speak for 12 minutes, but the world will remember even 12 seconds if you speak the truth. Mira nodded. As she walked toward the stage, the lights dimmed. Silence filled the air. People rose from their seats as she stepped up to the microphone. Some clapped, some simply stared. And then, she began. Her voice was soft, clear, calm, was trained to obey, to salute, to never ask why. For a long time, I followed that path. I thought silence was strength, but I was wrong. Silence is safety for the powerful and a prison for the rest. The hall remained silent. Even the cameras zoomed in closer. Mira continued. My name is Mira. I was born inside a lie. I served a system that wore the mask of protection, but behind that mask was fear, control, corruption. You didn't see it because it wore medals. You didn't question it because it used words like duty and sacrifice. Her voice grew stronger now. I was part of Unit 12. We were told we were special, elite, but we were used not to defend, but to destroy, not enemies but truths. We erased evidence, burned records, silenced voices. I did too until one day, a child asked me, why do we disappear people? I couldn't answer her. That question broke me. And that crack let the truth in. A few leaders in the front row shifted uncomfortably. Others bowed their heads. Mira didn't stop. I saw what power does when no one watches it. I saw what orders mean when morality is gone. I saw people who knew better stay silent, and I saw others, the brave ones, suffer for speaking. She paused, then looked up. My mother died fighting for truth. My father spent his last days buried in guilt. I carry both their legacies. That's why I'm not here to make peace with the past. I'm here to challenge the present, and demand a future where truth doesn't need to hide. The room was so still. Even the lights hummed louder than the crowd. I know some of you were part of what happened. Some of you signed papers you never read. Some of you looked away when you saw injustice. And some of you still hide secrets. Under the name of national security, a few gasps followed. Cameras didn't cut away, but this isn't about blame. It's about responsibility. About changing a system that rewards silence and punishes courage. We cannot fix what we refuse. Two-Face, she walked a few steps closer to the edge of the stage. I speak for the soldiers who were used, the families who never got answers, for the children who grew up with shadows instead of parents, and for every person who dared to was broken for it. A screen behind her began to show images, not of violence, but of people, the survivors, the whistleblowers, the ones who never got media time, the ones the world forgot. I didn't come here to be celebrated. I came here to remind you, justice is not loud. It's not grand. It's quiet, slow, uncomfortable, and it starts when one person says, enough. So today, I say it. She turned her gaze to the ambassadors, the generals, the world. Enough of fake salutes. Enough of false flags. Enough of using honor to hide horror. If we want peace, we must first stop protecting lies. Her final words were softer, almost a whisper. My name is Mira. I used to salute. Today I speak. Then. Silence, long, deep, nobody moved. For nearly 30 seconds, the entire hall stood still. Then slowly clapping began. It wasn't loud, but it spread, row by row. Some stood, some cried. Some didn't clap but didn't leave either. The world had been shaken not by anger, not by threat, but by truth. Later that night, Mira sat on a rooftop in Geneva. Zoya joined her, handing her a warm cup of tea. You okay? Mira nodded slowly. Yeah, I think, for the first time, I actually am. Rihan sent a message, a simple photo. Her words had gone viral, not just the speech, but the movement. It started. A group of young cadets in another country had refused to follow orders that didn't make sense. They quoted Mira, truth over tradition. A week later, laws began to change. Files were unsealed. Families received answers. Some nations apologized, some stayed silent. But the shift had started. The mirror had cracked. Months passed. Mira didn't return to the military. She didn't write a book. She didn't run for office. Instead, she taught in a small school in a forgotten town. She told children that bravery was not just on battlefields, it was in honesty, in listening, in standing alone when everyone expects you to bow. One day, a young girl stayed after class. She looked nervous. Miss Mira, she said, my dad says you were dangerous, that you betrayed your country. Mira didn't flinch. She smiled gently. And what do you think? The girl shrugged. I think you made people scared, but maybe they needed to be. Myra nodded. Sometimes, truth feels like betrayal. But truth is the only thing that can set people free. The girl sat beside her. Will you tell me your story? Mira smiled. Only if you promise to tell yours one day too. The camera zooms out Myra sitting under the setting sun. A quiet hero, not with medals but with meaning. She didn't salute, she spoke, and the world listened.